commemorating the Shadat of Ahl-e-Bait Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. I appreciate that Mu'mineen paid attention and came to these Majlis and were attentive on the topic, which of course may not be as exciting as one would think, but nonetheless it was the need of the hour that we talk about the concept of unity in these tumultuous times. And for that reason I continue to recite this ayat number 103 from Surah Al-Imran, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exhorts all of us, including Mu'mineen and Muttaqeen, that hold on to the rope of Allah, all of you, all together, and do not cause discord and dispute amongst yourselves. And remember the time when you were enemies of one another, which is a reference to Aus and Khazraj. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connected you, brought you together, فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ, brought your hearts together, فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا, you became brothers, and in iman of one another. And then he says towards the end, which I have not touched upon, وَكُنْتُمْ عَلَى شَفَا حُفْرَةٍ مِنَ النَّارِ, you were on the brink of the pit fire, or you were on the brink of being thrown into this fire. فَأَنْقَذَكُمْ مِنْهَا, Prophet rescued you from that pit of fire. And this is how وَكَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ آيَاتِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clarifies His ayat so that you may seek hidayah. Of course, Amir al-Mu'mineen, amongst his title is Hadi, the one who is hidayah. Yeah. He's Hadi and he gives guidance. He's Haq, and as compared by Rasulullah, Aliyun ma'al Haq wal Haqqu ma'a Ali. Similarly, Rasulullah compared him to Quran, that Aliyun ma'al Quran wal Quranu ma'a Ali. While he had already considered them to be, on the same line, Quran and Ahl-e-Bait, but separately he mentions regarding Amir al-Mu'mineen and that comparison of him with Quran. It is important that we see, as I promised that inshallah I'll touch upon the wasiyat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that the first words that come out of the mouth of Amir al-Mu'mineen when he gives this wasiyat after gathering all of his family members, right? This morning, the morning of 21st of Ramadan, Amir al-Mu'mineen was buried. His children, before the morning, nighttime, at the time of darkness, they, for the wasiyat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, carried his coffin to this place, which was known as Najaf. Now, how did it become known as Najaf? There are various accounts to it. One of the accounts mentioned that this place used to have a lot of water, and eventually the water was absorbed into the sand. And once it absorbed into the sand, someone said that the word Jaffa in Arabic means that becomes dry. Jaffa, that it became dry. I mean, someone who's seen this place, for example, for so many years, and then comes after a while and sees difference in color, will right away say, what happened? The color has changed. When people saw that place, which was always filled with water, now the water was gone, they said it dried. It dried up. And Jaffa then, with the Murur Zaman, became Najaf. Najaf. That is the etymology of the word Najaf. With that said, Imam ﷺ was taken to this place, buried, and inshallah we'll come to that towards the end in the Masai. But Imam began the wasiyat by saying what? Allah, Allah bil Quran. Fear Allah. Fear Allah in respect to Quran. La yasbiqukum bihi bil amal bihi ghayrukum. Don't let others exceed you in taking lessons from this Quran. This Quran, which Amir al-Mu'mineen mentions that zahiruhu aniqun, وَبَاطِنُهُ عَمِيقٌ. Quran whose zahir and the apparent is very clean and pure. Aniq from naqi, right? The word naqi, which means clean and pure. It says Quran whose zahir is very pure and clean. وَبَاطِنُهُ عَمِيقٌ. Amiq, you all know, is with depth. Therefore, just don't look at the zahir of Quran, but rather dive into the depths of this book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. This was revealed for your guidance. And when you're able to correlate the ayat of Quran, you will find the hadi from it as well. أَفَمَنْ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْحَقِّ. Imam's title is Hadi. Quran says, أَفَمَنْ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْحَقِّ أَحَقُّ أَنْ يُتَّبَعَ أَمَّنْ لَا يَهِدِّي إِلَّا أَنْ يُهْدَى. Right? Ali is with Haqq. Quran says, one of the titles of Ali is Hadi, and he is with Haqq. Ayat of Quran says what? Is it the one who gives you the guidance, the one who has already been guided, or the one who himself is in need of guidance? فَمَا لَكُمْ كَيْفَ تَحْكُمُونَ. The Quran challenges, what is wrong with you? How do you judge? Why are you going after those who themselves are in need of hidayat? Seek from the ones who have already been given this hidayat. Now, just to prove this point, not just from our own ulama and the scholars, you heard the name of Imam al-Ghazali. Of course, there are many differences that we have with Imam al-Ghazali from many of the works that he has done. But when he mentions about the ilm of Amirul Mu'mineen in his book called Jawahirul Quran, in his book Jawahirul Quran, he quotes Amirul Mu'mineen who said, Qala Aliyun. So he quotes Amirul Mu'mineen. What did Ali say? لو شئت لأوقرت 70 بعيرا من تفسير فاتحة الكتاب. He said, if I wish I could load 70 camels with the commentary of Surah Fatiha. Load 70 camels, meaning load them with information, with pages of knowledge about Surah Fatiha. I wish, and I can. Amirul Mu'mineen is capable of doing it. Why? Because later on he says, Saluni anil Quran fa inni a'lamu bi ayatihi fima nazalat wa ayna nazalat. Saluni, ask me about Quran. Because I am more aware of this Quran and I have knowledge of the verses of Quran, that where it was revealed and upon whom it was revealed. So if Ali wants, he will do the tafsir of Surah Fatiha only, where you would have to load the information on 70 camels. You know, today we have a modest tafsir of Quran, 5 volumes, 7 volumes. My father Marhum translated Tafsir Safi in 7 volumes. Someone asked, Molana, we want to buy the tafsir. I said, yes, 7 volumes. He said, that's too many. 7 volumes. Now we were thinking maybe a volume or 2 would be enough. Yes, there are abridged tafsir of Quran that are available. Many of the ulama, such as Allama Zishan al-Jawadi, Allah Maqamuhu, in his translation of Quran, he has done abridged tafsir of it as well. You can use that. That's good enough for, people who are ordinarily not reading in depth and detail. But this is available. 7 volumes is too much. Well, let me introduce you to Tafsir Mizan, 20 volumes. Anything else? Tafsir Namuna, Ayatul Makarim Shirazi, 27 volumes. Then, one of the tafsir which is ongoing right now, Tafsir Tasneem by Ayatul Jawadi Amuli, is already up to 80 volumes. That is his entire lifetime's work, basically. So when I'm saying the word ordinary, but of course they are extraordinary. Ordinary scholars are able to do the tafsir of Quran in 80 volumes, then someone who is Idl Quran, from whom Rasulullah is comparing him to Quran, just imagine how many volumes he will be able to produce as far as Quran is concerned. And that too, someone who has grudge against these individuals. Ghazali says what? Ali said, I wish I could load 70 camels. Then he says, وَهَذِهِ الْكَفَرَةِ فِي السِّعَةِ. These are the words of Ghazali. وهذه الكسرة والسعة في الانتفاع في العلم لا يكون إلا لدنيا سماويا إلهيا. He said this extraordinary extensiveness in the meanings of expansion of Quran cannot be without ilm ladunni, the heavenly knowledge given to only by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the knowledge that is possessed by Ahl-e-Bait. Therefore, Imam is giving this important note in the very beginning of his wasiyah. He says what? He said, La yasbikukum ghayr. Do not let this Quran be stranded, lest others take advantage of this Quran and you fall behind. Honestly speaking, many of us have hard time reading this Quran, let alone understanding it. Let alone making enough time to go ahead and dive into it and understand the tafsir. Explanation of Quran. Molana, whatever we've heard from the member, that is enough for us. We don't need to go ahead and do our own further studies and understand this Quran. You know, when we look at the marvels from the fadail of Amir-ul-Mu'mineen, he is the only individual. When it comes to the literature, right? One of the miracles of Quran is what? The Quran, which is revealed unto our Prophet, is a miracle because of its literary effects. It's a marvel of literature. At that time in Arabia, people could not, they were bragging about their literature. Quran came in to respond to that. When they heard ayat such as Noon, wal qalami wa ma yasturun, right away it grabbed their attention. When they heard ayat that begin with huruf muqatta'at, alif lam mim, dhalika al-kitab la rayba fi, right away it was something new. They had not heard it before. Amir-ul-Mu'mineen mastered that. And that is found in this peak of eloquence that you see, known as Nahj Balagha. But outside of this peak of eloquence, Nahj Balagha, there exists two more. There are many other khutbahs of Amir-ul-Mu'mineen, because Sayyid Radhi was not compiling all of the khitab of Amir-ul-Mu'mineen. He only compiled that which he thought was what? At the peak of eloquence. There are other khutbahs of Amir-ul-Mu'mineen, two which are highlighted. Number one, the khutbah of Amir-ul-Mu'mineen, which is without using the words with nuqta in it. Without using the words with nuqta in it. You only have 13 letters in Arabic, they don't have nuqta. Remaining 13 letters have nuqta in it. Or 40, if there are 28, remaining 15 have nuqta in it. 13 are void of nuqta. Ali used only 13 letters to go ahead and produce a khutbah which begins like this. Hamidtu. This is the khutbah without the alif, but the one that he produced without the alphabets that had no nuqta. He said, Alhamdu lillahi al-malik al-mahmud al-malik al-wadud musawwir kulli mawd. Using the words, they don't have any nuqta. Alhamdu does not have any nuqta. Lillahi al-malik al-mahmud. Presenting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the one who's the most praised, al-malik al-wadud, the one who's the most beloved, musawwir kulli mawlud, the one who designed every human being, everything that is born. Now when it comes to the khutbah that he produced without using the word alif or letter alif, Amir-ul-Mu'mineen, he said, Hamidtu min man azamta minnatahu. I'm praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who has done minnat and favor to everyone. وَسَّبَغَتْ نِعْمَتُهُ, the one whose ni'mat is all encompassing. وَسَّبَقَتْ رَحْمَتُهُ غَضَبًا. And goes on. These are two marvels that Imam produced. You sit down, take this opportunity, not right now during the Majlis. After the Majlis, when you go home, try and write a sentence without using alif. Try and write a sentence without using the letters that don't have any nuqta in it. See how long it takes you. Now you can use the AI tool, they might be able to produce it faster. But that is the marvel, that is the mind of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. What with all that? He had all this knowledge and he was asking people to ask him, Saluni qabla an tafqiduni, before I am no longer amongst you. But what did he got in return? Nothing but pain and difficulty. You know, we all go through pains and difficulty in our lives. Nobody can say that we have not faced any pains or difficulty. That's why the lives of Ma'asumeen are a misal for us. That we look at their lives and we understand that yes, pain is part of our lives. Amir Mu'mineen, you look at his life, all the pains that he endured from the very beginning. I don't know if I can go and recap the entire history of Ali's life from the time of Wafat of Rasulullah. The whole bringing the fire to the house. The whole bringing the door down, knocking it down. That Ali, who is the kahraman of the battles of Badr and Uhud and Khaybar and Khandaq and Hunayn and other battles, he remains silent. Could there be a bigger musibah than that? That not to be able to express and to go ahead and stand up and defend. No, you're able to do so. You're capable of doing it. You heard in the announcement, you and I are fasting or hungry by choice. Right? And there are many who are hungry because they don't have any choice. That's what elevates this fast as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He speaks about fasting, because it takes a toll on your body, He says, as-sawmu li. Sawm is for me. Although all the ibadat are for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But He gives extra emphasis to fasting. He said, as-sawmu li. Wa ana ajzi. Or ana ujza. Both of them. When you say ana ajzi, that means fasting is for me and I will give compensation of it separately. Meaning you'll get the compensation for everything else and then you'll get the compensation for fasting separately. But some translation or some way of reading ujza, if you read it as majhul, which means what? Fasting is for me and I am the jaza of this task. Meaning Allah Himself becomes the compensation for it. Allah becomes the compensation. Ana ujza. Meaning what? Oh my abd, when I become the compensation for it. You say something, it becomes. Why? Because I say kun fayakun, you do it and it'll happen as well. You develop and Allah gives you this ability once you perform this ibadat the way it has to be performed. Amirul Mu'mineen, the Masa'ib don't end there. The house is burned down. Then what happens? The silence of Ali for 25 years. We already mentioned in the first Majlis, he said, فَصَبَرْتُ, I did sabr. But Ali did not sit idly. He said, well, that's it, I can't do anything. I'm not going to stand up and fight because Rasulullah has told me not to. Therefore, I'll just stay at home. No, Amirul Mu'mineen kept himself busy. He produced these wells in the area called Yambur in Saudi Arabia, which if you still go there, it says Abar Ali. Abar is the plural of Be'er, the wells that were dug by Amirul Mu'mineen. You know, there's good legacy and there's bad legacy. If you leave behind a bad legacy, if someone does it after you, copies you, you get the allow for that as well. So there are a lot of legacies, especially in the month of Ramadan, that are happening. There's some people left behind. That I don't like the way people are doing this, let's do it that way. And it became a ritual. But then there's some good legacy as well. Ali ibn Abi Talib did not have to, but he dug all of these wells. Even if people continue to benefit till the last day of Qiyamah, Ali ibn Abi Talib is giving credit to this. So when you are the followers of that Ali, make sure that you leave a positive legacy behind you. Masa'ib were all around Ali. He not only sees the loss of Rasulullah, but the loss of Fatima Zahra as well. And then the 25 years of silence. Let's fast forward to Ali's Khilafat al-Zahir. 4.5 years filled with the battles that he had to go through. You know the battles, what took place in the battles, and how many lives were lost. Just today, as you see, many lives are being lost without any purpose. Well, there is a purpose. It's greed. That's the purpose. At that time, it was also greed. Isham is not after, the betterment of the society and the community. That's a greed that has gotten into him, so that he stands up against Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now, when we speak about the Khilafat and the Imamat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, they say one of the historians and scholars of Ahl-Sunnah who debated with Sheikh Mufid. And when he spoke with Sheikh Mufid, he said, what is the proof of Imam's Imamat? And so Rasulullah announced it on so many occasions. The Reform is there. He's made him sleep on his bed. All of those areas. He left him going to Tabuk, and he said, Anta minni bi manzilati Harun min Musa. All of those are there. Ayat of Quran came down. He said, but the biggest is, Man kuntu Mola, fa'aliyun Mola. This scholar of Ahl-Sunnah, he said, yes, but that is riwayat. It's a tradition, it's a riwayat. But Abu Bakr became the first Khalifa. That is dirayat. And you know very well that you cannot take dirayat means something that happened physically, over riwayat, something that was just in concept, right? You think of a concept and someone goes ahead and executes it. You stay behind. So what's going to be taken? That which is out there. Don't take your concept with you to your graves. Let the concepts be out. He said that was a concept, that was a hadith. And you know very well, being a scholar yourself, you cannot take riwayat over dirayat. Sheikh Abu said, okay, fair enough. Let me ask you a question. He said, what happened in the battle of Jamal and Siffin? He said, two people who stood up against Amir al-Mu'mineen. One is your Amir Sham, number two is al-Mu'mineen. He said, yes. The two went to the battle against Amir al-Mu'mineen. They waged a war against Amir al-Mu'mineen. He said, well, how do you deal with these two people? He said, well, they performed tawbah. After having done this, and they were pushed ahead, so they did tawbah, and because of their tawbah, they will not be questioned. He said, but where does it say they did tawbah? He said, well, the riwayat is there. He said, hold on a second. The battles took place against Amir al-Mu'mineen, that is dirayat. Them saying tawbah is a riwayat. Just a moment ago you established this formula that you cannot take riwayat over dirayat, therefore how can you go ahead and take the dirayat over riwayat over here? When you don't want to consider that, then you should not also consider this and condemn where the condemnation is due. Amir al-Mu'mineen is mazloom at that time, we see. The 4.5 years of continuous struggle that he goes through. But there's a reason for the pains that we face, and I'm bringing you to close as soon as possible. That there's a reason for the pains that we go through, the difficulties that we face. The difficulties that you and I endure in our life, they're not there because Allah likes it. They're there because they shape us as individuals, make us better. When someone enlists themselves to go join the army, they go through a very rigorous process of becoming a soldier. It's not that easy. Many of us probably would not even be able to survive, the first level of it, let alone the later levels of. And therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us. This is the imtihan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Masumeen know their imtihan is severe, and they go through this imtihan without any complaints. So you don't hear any complaint in the mouth of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You don't even hear the complaints in the mouth from the tongues of Imam Hussein and Bibi Zainab. And even if the young ones wanted to go out and complain, they stopped them from doing so. Here we see Ali ibn Abi Talib is Muslim. This is where we find the reason for these struggles is what? Last Jumla, inshallah, I'll bring you to a side. What is the reason for this struggle? Why you and I go through these difficulties? Number one, the scholars have mentioned, the reason we face difficulty is so that Allah, by giving us this difficulty, we can bring the best out of ourselves. Our inner hidden qabiliyat can be brought out. And number two, when Allah tests us, we are able to understand those in our surrounding as well. These are the two possible results of the pains and the difficulties that you go through. Right? So if I'm being tested, Allah is making me a better person. Don't throw yourself down and say, well, that's it. I'm the worst there could be, and I only received the masa'ib and the musibat. No. Allah is bringing a better person out of you. And number two, the reason for your masa'ib is you're able to better understand people in your surrounding. We understand our masa'ib, but why is it the musibat coming on ma'asumin? I'll give you an example. Two battles. One is Battle of Khaybar, one is Battle of Khandaq. In Battle of Khandaq, this enemy of Islam is pointing and accusing and calling Rasulullah names, defaming and using bad words against religion. Yet everybody knows in the crowd that if we had the guts to stand up against Amr ibn Abdullah, we would not be sitting here. Rasulullah said, which one of you want to go ahead and respond to him? Nobody has the guts to stand up. But there's this young man who wants to go. Rasulullah said, sit down. Amr ibn Abdullah calls again. Rasulullah said, which one of you wants to go? Nobody wants to go ahead and respond. They know Amr ibn Abdullah can handle 100 or 1,000 men by himself. He's a warrior. Nobody wants to face him. Again, this young man wants to go. Third time he insulted Rasulullah, made fun and mockery of the religion. Rasulullah asked his companions again. Nobody stood up, and then he let Ali go. Ali goes, finishes Amr ibn Abdullah, comes back. Question should be asked, oh Rasulullah, why did you send Ali the first time? He was willing to go. He said, this is how you understand the people in your surrounding. That who will be able to stand up with you in times of need. Whenever there's a need, you can only rely on the Ahl-e-Bait ﷺ and not anyone else. Salawat Muhammad wa ala. Second is Khaybar. You already have done. You've reached the conclusion on it. The battle lasts up until the 40th day when Amir al-Mu'mineen was called upon. Rasulullah had predicted that I will call upon someone, I'll give this ra'ya in the hand of Rajul who's karrar, ghair farrar. And when all that was done, I would say, oh Rasulullah, why didn't you give the ra'ya in the hand of Ali the first day? If he was struggling with his eyes and you cured him on the 40th day, you could have cured him on the first day. If he was not feeling well after a week of battles and continuous defeat, you could have cured him the way you cured him on the 39th day. Why did you wait for 3-4 weeks, then a month, then gave him the flag on the 40th day? Rasulullah would respond by saying that so that nobody can say that Rasulullah never gave us the opportunity and he always preferred Ali. No, this was not a place of preference because you would go ahead and face an enemy. And number two, you would be able to understand in times of need who you can rely upon. That is Amir al-Mu'mineen. And that's the same thing, the story that you see in Karbala as well. That when Islam is in need, you only see these 72 stand up. What happened to Ummah al-Muslimah? From east to west, Islam has spread. Where is this Ummah? Only 72 people are standing up to defend the honor and the prestige of this madhab. Ajrukum Allah. I say this because we sometimes also fall in the same trap. When deen is in need, sometimes you and I also shy away. When religion is in need, not that religion is in need, it's the deen of Allah and He will take care of it. Kind of like Hazrat Abdul Muttalib. He said, this is the house of Allah, everything has a Rabb. This house also has a Rabb. I am the Rabb of my ibil, meaning my camels. I'll take my camels and walk. Kullu shay'in halik illa wajha. That is the promise in Quran. Everything will perish except the face, except this deen. So deen is not going anywhere. But it will be considered that who stood up for it and who failed to stand up for it. We see the night has come, Imam gives those wasiyat. The first wasiyat, I only recited one wasiyat. Imam says, Allah, Allah bil Quran. Why? Tonight is the night when Quran was revealed. Ali is given this command. And then towards the end, he says one more thing. He said, if I am killed with this zarbat, hit the similar zarbat to my enemy, if he dies with it, so be it. If he doesn't, that's fine. But do not run around after my death taking revenge from the enemies. Then Ali ibn Abi Talib is killed, now we're going to go around, kill the friends and the families of this individual. And then Rasul Ali also said one thing, that when you kill him, do not amputate his body parts. Why? I've heard Rasulullah that even if a dog is killed, a biting dog is killed, do not amputate the body parts. These are the wasaya of Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is the true Nabi Islam that Amir al-Mu'mineen is teaching. But then comes the musibat of Ali. The night has eventually arrived. Per the wasiyat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, as soon as his eyes shut, and he was pronounced, and the Inna Lillah wa Inna Ilayhi Raji'un was heard, Zainab and Kulsum begin their girya. They start to weep and cry. Ali's wasiyat to take him at night. The janaza was taken. Ali had said, grab it from the backside. Jibreel and Mikael are carrying it from the front. As they take the janaza of Ali, they go ahead and bury it in that place which had already been told. That grave place was not marked. Nobody knew where Ali was buried. That is another musibat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. In fact, it is the musibat of many of the other Aimma as well. The grave place of Janab Sayyida is still unknown to us. The grave place of Ali was unknown for many centuries until the time of Harun al-Rashid, that when he was hunting and he sent his dogs, hunting dogs towards the deer climbed up to that hill, but the dogs refrained from going there. They asked someone local, why is it the deer are there but the dogs aren't going? He said, because there's the grave of a saint over here and the dogs, out of respect, they are staying back from it. Only at that time it was known that this is the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He said, let's go ahead and build a mausoleum on top of it. I would say another musibat of Ali ibn Abi Talib. But once Hasanain had buried Amir al-Mu'mineen, poured the khak on top of his body, leveled the grave so that nobody will find. Now, as soon as they were coming back, although all of the children of Ali had gone, as they were making their way back, on the way back, the children are sad. That's like you go to a graveyard to bury your loved one, and when you're coming back home, they hear the sound of someone crying. They go towards that place. Who is this person crying? They find this man who was probably blind, who was weeping and crying, and he was saying, is there anyone who will come and feed me? me. He said, oh man, how come there's nobody who takes care of you? He said, oh, there is someone who provides for me, takes care of me, but he hasn't come in 3 days. He said, you know his name? I said, no, I don't know his name. He never mentioned his name. That is the akhlaq of Ali. You help someone anonymously. You don't have to give your name. He said, do you remember anything about him? He said, no, I don't remember anything. But yes, I can say one thing. Your voice matches the voice of that individual. Imam heard this. Imam Hassan started to cry.